So raise your hand, please, if this sounds a little bit familiar. An anonymous NFL executive is claiming that Lamar Jackson is not an elite quarterback in the NFL. That sound familiar? Oh, look at all the hands. Well, guess what, folks? We don't have just one, but four of these goonies who are claiming that Lamar Jackson is not a tier 1 quarterback. You know we're digging into that. But not just that. Ravens camp is having all kinds of great delights and revelations, but one we got to talk about is the ascension of a player we've all been waiting to see ascend. And from word on the street, he's flying high. I'm Rob Love. Welcome back to One Flock. It's episode 2, season 2, and you know we got a good one today. Time to fly. Let's go.
Let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens. We are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock.
Welcome to another edition of One Flock. You know I'm your host, your boy Rob Love, and you know I appreciate you flying with the brother. This is One Flock, where we talk everything Ravens, and as we already set the stage for, you know it's going to get a little bit intense today, so bourbon is on hand. I hope you have yours with you, because some of what we're going to hear is just downright infuriating. We are talking about, of course, the talk we've been hearing all week about the Athletics' new quarterback tiering list that they put out. And I'm just going to put it up on the screen right now so you can see how this came out. Of course, the Athletic, Mike Sando and those guys over here poll various anonymous NFL executives, coaches, GMs, etc. And this year, this is what they came out with. So let's take a look. Here you see the tier 1 quarterbacks, the Athletics poll of 50 execs and coaches. The top row here you can see are the first place votes that Patrick Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, and Stafford received as tier 1 quarterbacks in the NFL. You can see that Mahomes, unanimous. Burrow, who hasn't been in the playoffs in 3 years, unanimous. Josh Allen, 3 people didn't put him as a tier 1, but Lamar Jackson, 4 of these executives are saying that the only guy on this list not named Patrick Mahomes that has 2 MVPs as a quarterback in the NFL is not a tier 1 quarterback in the NFL. 4! How is that possible? Well, let's define first what the definition of tier 1 quarterback was that was presented to these execs and coaches as they were putting these votes. I want to bring up that here because I think it weighs heavily upon this farce. That's what we'll call it, farce. As you can see here, the definition for a tier 1 quarterback in Mike Sando's NFL quarterback tiers, tier 1 represents the elite MVP level quarterbacks who can consistently carry their teams to victory. These quarterbacks expertly handle pure passing situations and are the driving force behind their team's success. I want you to remember this definition because we're going to revisit Lamar Jackson. The tier 2 quarterbacks represent quarterbacks who can carry their team sometimes, but not as consistently. These players can handle pure passing situations in doses and or have other dimensions that are special enough to elevate them above tier 3. Essentially, they are good enough to be considered great, but lack the consistent excellence to be in the top tier. So, 4 NFL execs put Lamar as a tier 2 quarterback, saying that he He's not good enough to be considered great. And he's not consistent in excellence. All right. Let's talk about Lamar Jackson real quick. Can we? And because I don't like dealing in empty, baseless comments, I like facts to back me up. So let's look at it. I put this together so we can just together look at what type of excellence or consistency Lamar Jackson has had since he's been in the league as an NFL quarterback. Lamar's not a tier 1 quarterback? I want to remind everyone that Lamar Jackson has only played 4 complete seasons as an NFL quarterback. 4. His first year, he was not the starter. Joe Flacco was. His second year, 2019, he was the starter for a full season. 2020, he was a starter for a full season. In 21 and 22, he was hurt and did not get to complete the seasons. 23, he was a starter for the whole season. And 24. Only 4 seasons that Lamar Jackson has suited up as the starter of the Baltimore Ravens for an entire year. What happened in those 4 years? Did we see? Yes. Was he consistently winning, leading his team to victory? Was excellence portrayed and from the quarterback position for every one of those years, or was it just 1 or 2 maybe where he was excellent? Let's look at it. Here's 2019, Lamar's very first year. Straight off Bill Polian's proclamation that he can't play quarterback, maybe he needs to switch to wide receiver. His very first year as an NFL quarterback, unanimous MVP. That's only happened twice in the history of the league. The other guy who did it, his name's Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson had the most rushing yards ever by a quarterback in a season. He had the most passing yards ever by a Baltimore Raven. And he had 3 perfect passer ratings. 2 in that season, 1 came later. He had 3 games in that season also where he threw 5 touchdowns in each game. His second year, 2020, COVID onset. He did not have any MVP votes. But his very next season that he played the entire season, 2023, once again he won the MVP, 1 vote shy of being unanimous yet again. Excellence? I'd say so. The very next year, the infamous MVP snub that we're all still trying to get over, where Lamar Jackson did nothing but become the first quarterback to pass for 4,000 yards with only 4 interceptions. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Let's not take away yards. To pass for over 4,000 yards with only 4 interceptions thrown. He also became the first quarterback to pass for 4,000 plus yards while at the same time rushing for over 900 yards. Oh, and let's not forget, he put together the 4th best QBR for a season in NFL history. And yes, they snubbed him and didn't give him the MVP, gave it to some guy from Buffalo who didn't throw as many touchdown passes as him, didn't have as many passing yards as him, didn't have as many rushing yards as him, he wasn't as efficient throwing the ball as him, threw more interceptions than him. Yeah, and got beat by him handily. Now let's go back to these definitions again. Okay? This is what Lamar has done. This isn't a tier 1 quarterback. If this is not a tier 1 quarterback, my question is, what is? If you have literally been an MVP finalist for 3 out of the 4 seasons that you've started as an NFL quarterback and completed the year, if that doesn't qualify as tier 1, what does? Because here's something interesting, folks. a little bit of NFL history, which Lamar Jackson happens to be making as a quarterback all the time. Let's put this up on the screen. Do you see this right here? The next time someone says to you, some idiot walks up and says, Lamar Jackson is not a tier 1 quarterback, you look right at them and you proudly let them know this. Lamar Jackson is the only player to be an MVP finalist 75% of his career seasons completed as a starter. No player in the history of the NFL at any point in their career could say 3 out of every 4 seasons I show up, I'm on the MVP stand. That's Lamar Jackson. No one's ever done that. He's played 4 complete seasons as a starter, 3 of them MVP finalists. 3 of them should have been MVP wins. You're talking about a unanimous MVP, a 1 vote away from unanimous, and an MVP snub last year. So let that settle in while you're looking at these definitions of what a tier 1 quarterback is. MVP level? I'd say so. Consistently carry their teams to victory? I'd say so. Expertly handle pure passing situations? I'd say with the 4th highest QBR in history, yes, definitely. Oh, by the way, his passing completion percentage inside and outside of the pocket lead the NFL. He's top 4 in clean pocket. But somehow, these NFL execs, guys you expect to know about football, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There are some perceptions that I've been mistakenly prone to, and I know that many of you no doubt have as well. And it's this perception that in order to be an NFL exec or GM or whatever these guys are, a sports analyst, that you have to really have some real notion of football or be a good judge of talent, a credible judge of what makes a good quarterback, what makes a tier 1 versus tier 2. That's a lie, folks. And you know what? I'm going to illustrate it the best way I know how. I know several people, friends of mine, that work for one of the Ford plants that's near where I live. They work for the Ford plant. Many of them have worked there for years. Some are about to retire. But just because they work at the Ford plant does not make them a credible resource when I want to know, hey, what's the best engine out there? What's the best motor out there? What's the best vehicle out there? They don't know. They just work at Ford. We just think that because these execs and GMs, I own a team, I run a team, I make a lot of money off an NFL team, I invested in a team, that these guys know. We're going to put so much credibility into what they think about what a tier. You want to see how flawed that is? Read this definition and find one person that truly understands what great quarterback play is, what tier Lamar Jackson is by this definition, and doesn't put him as a tier 1 quarterback. The truth is so obvious now. There are some real Goobers, goofy Goobers. SpongeBob term there. There's some goofy Goobers that are voting on these things. Let's go and give them a moment here. Let's get them on the screen. I think we got to give the goofy Goobers a moment here. Here we are. There's our goofy Goober. Yeah, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he's not a tier 1 quarterback. But who are these goofy Goobers? Where did these voters come from? Well, thankfully, and we're going to watch it real quick, just a quick snippet from a good buddy of mine over here. If you haven't watched Locked on Ravens, you should give them a watch for sure. Kevin Ostreicher over there. He's a great host, been doing it for, I think it's like 6 years now. He had an interview with Mike Sando earlier this week. And in this interview, remember, Mike Sando is with The Athletic, who actually polled these 50 NFL execs. I want you to listen to what he has to say about who these voters were. Check this out.
Yeah, I think it's a unique one just because of the number of people, the process of it. You know, for me, I started after the draft. We then kind of know the quarterback setup for all the teams.
Right.
And I'll go about calling or meeting with in person, 50 coaches and executives throughout the league. This year, I got 6 GMs, 6 assistant GMs, 6 former GMs working in different roles. I've got 8 head coaches. I think 19 other coaches, 15 of those are coordinators, a handful of other executives. So it's really a market analysis of where the league sees the teams based on the criteria that has been developed over the years from talking to people in the league, what they value at the position. And, tier 1 is the best. Tier 5 would mean we don't even think you're a starter.
Okay, we're going to stop it right there. Did you see where the Goobers were lurking in this poll? Now, let's first of all say that finally the majority of those polled stopped being a Goober. I want to say last year, only 26, roughly half of these 50 people polled put Lamar Jackson as a tier 1 quarterback. And so he ended up being a tier 2 quarterback per the poll. However, 20 of those guys got smacked upside the head with so much reality, they finally had to let go of the narrative-driven bullcrap that has kept Lamar Jackson in many people's minds on some lower tier of quarterback play his entire career. Despite the Heismans, despite the MVPs, despite the record-breaking numbers. It's ridiculous. While they are quick to take guys who have far less accomplishments ahead of him and vault them to tier 1 status because of some archaic, idiotic mindset that allows them to just overlook and diminish Lamar Jackson's greatness as a quarterback. But let's look at where these goofy Goobers are more than likely at. I made this again. I'm enjoying putting these goofy Goobers on blast. So let's get their stuff on the screen here. Here they are. Where are the goofy Goobers? Well, you see them right there. These are the categories you heard Mike talk about where they got the various votes for this poll. Now, I'm going to start off right away. You know the guys that definitely voted Lamar Jackson as a tier 1 quarterback. You know there wasn't a single coach. There was not a single head coach that said Lamar's not a tier 1 quarterback. All 8 of those guys, we've heard what coaches have to say about Lamar. There wasn't a single assistant coach that said Lamar's not a tier 1 quarterback. All 19 of them did. 6 GMs, this is where we get a little risky because GMs, they know business. They don't know football. Some know football really well. Others, as you can see by decisions that have been made over and over again with lots of unsuccessful franchises. 6 assistant GMs. Possibility there could be a lurker in there. But this is where I had to up the goofy goofball potential. 6 former GMs were polled. You know who Bill Polian is? A former GM of the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, he's that guy that said that Lamar Jackson could not be an NFL quarterback and he should switch to wide receiver. And then after Lamar Jackson smacked him with the unanimous MVP in his very first year as a starter, he came back and said he was wrong because he was holding to a prototypical quarterback. Shut up, man. He still never gave Lamar his flowers. As recently as last year, this same former GM went on the record and said, the way you stop Lamar is you got to keep him in the pocket. make him pass the ball. Somebody smack this guy. Wake him up. Give him his meds. I don't know what he needs, but at the very moment that he made this horrendous analysis of how to stop Lamar Jackson was touting the fourth highest passer rating from the pocket of all NFL quarterbacks. See where these guys just, they have hypnotized themselves with their own narrative so much that they can't even see the facts. Lamar can't get the credit for his greatness, even in the moment of his greatness. Their faulty analysis of him, their faulty predictions of how he would fail as an NFL quarterback are more real and precious to them than Lamar Jackson's very undeniable greatness as a quarterback. So even in the presence of it, they put on the blinders. They don't see his greatness, and it shows when they're asked the question, is Lamar Jackson a tier 1 quarterback? Oh, but I don't know if he can. I don't know if he's MVP level. I don't know if he has consistent excellence. I don't know if he can lead his teams to wins. I don't know if he can pass consistently from. In the time that Lamar Jackson has been playing in the NFL, no quarterback has won at a higher click than Lamar Jackson, not named Patrick Mahomes. They're 1 and 2. Nobody wins more than those two guys. So why is Lamar not tier 1? It's ridiculous. And then you got these 5 executives. We don't know who these anonymous guys, and they love to stay anonymous. Nobody wants to come out on the record and say, I'm this guy. I'm a goofy goober. Nobody wants to do that. So they stay anonymous, and they rob Lamar from an MVP. They try to rob him from his status that he's earned as a tier 1 quarterback. It's just ridiculous. I want to go back to this list. I'm going to show you one thing, and then we're going to move on from this. But I thought this was interesting, and it needs to be said. Did you notice who they had a unanimous tier 1? Patrick Mahomes, of course. I'll give him that. Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow has not been to the playoffs. He hasn't taken his team to the playoffs, despite having the best wide receiver room, arguably, in the NFL. They haven't sniffed the playoffs since 3 seasons ago. How is he a unanimous QB1? Where's the consistency there of leading his team to win? Where's that at? It's not. Oh, but you know what they'll say? Oh, well, Joe Burrow has shown that he's the guy that can beat Patrick Mahomes. Once in the playoffs. Years ago. Can I say, is this mic on? Years ago. Did you hear that? Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl and lost. He went one step further than Lamar Jackson has gone in the playoffs and then disappeared from playoff relevance and has not been back. But he's a unanimous tier 1 quarterback. Lamar Jackson spanks Joe Burrow's behind on a regular basis. It's shameful what Lamar Jackson's winning. Not just league-wide is he the second most winning quarterback, but against this dude, this tier 1 quarterback, Lamar has beat him in shootout after shootout with amazing play after amazing play. It was against Joe Burrow and his Bengals that Lamar Jackson stiff-armed the linebacker and ran around and jumped out of bounds, getting hit, and threw a touchdown. Lamar Jackson has willed his team to win against Joe Burrow several times. But Joe Burrow's a unanimous tier 1 quarterback. Joe Burrow with no MVPs. Lamar Jackson's been a finalist 3 out of his 4 years as a starter for the season. Never has Lamar Jackson led Ravens miss the playoffs. In fact, they're in the same division as Joe Burrow. And the only way Joe Burrow got into that 2020 and 2021, 2022 situation was because Lamar Jackson wasn't playing. He was hurt. But Joe Burrow, they'll say, oh, well, you know, he... And then they try to just fixate on the fact that he's beating Mahomes. Well, he's the guy that can beat the guy. Okay. He's got 1 Super Bowl appearance. Can Jaylen Herz beat Mahomes? Oh, he can? Oh, has Jaylen Herz won a Super Bowl? Oh, he has. How many Super Bowl appearances does Jaylen Herz have? 2. Yet, no unanimous votes for Jaylen Herz to be a tier 1 quarterback. And he's done everything that they try to use as their reason for Joe Burrow being a unanimous tier 1. You see what I mean? The inconsistencies, the bull crap that they feed us on this whole thing makes it less and less meaningful. So as I initially got upset when I heard this mess, because you know how I care about my Ravens, you know how we all care about our quarterback, our guy, number 8. The disrespect is upsetting. But the more I see this type of nonsense, the more I go, you know what? It's not even anything to get upset about. The ignorance is goofy goober level. And that's all we're going to talk about that. We're going to move on and away from this and on to some stuff that's really, really awesome. Of course, you know, camp's been going on. Been lots of reports coming out of camp. But one of the biggest ones that I got excited about, one that I've been waiting and anticipating ever since we saw this brother come in as a first-round draft pick out of the University of Minnesota. Rashod Bateman is not just healthy this year, but he is catching eyes and turning heads. Look at these reports from camp about Rashod Bateman. Check this out. This observation from camp was from Justin Robertson with BaltimoreRavens.com. He said the highlight of the day came when Jackson dropped the ball into a bucket deep down the sideline to Bateman for roughly a 40-yard touchdown. Woo! Others regarded this pass as a 50-yard touchdown. So somewhere between 40 and 50 yards, near halfway of the length of the field, Lamar dropped a dime, and Bateman brought it down, took it in for 6. This deep threat that Rashod Bateman has always, when healthy, been a threat to be. I don't know if you recall, but in his NFL camp, 4.3 speed is what he was flashing. His route running, superb. The amount of space that Rashod Bateman has been able to get amongst all wide receivers in the league. Separation. He's been one of the best consistently. Look at this. Jonas Schaefer. Bateman's been the Ravens' top downfield threat in camp. Uh-oh. Do you know what this means? With the wide receiving core that we have now, if Rashod Bateman is doing this, uh-oh. Let's just pull it up on the screen. You know who our wide receiving core is now. We've got Rashod Bateman, an emerging Zay Flowers coming fresh off a 1,000+ yard receiving season, and the legend himself, D-Hop, is in the building. I want to show you just these guys' numbers from last year. Remember, DeAndre Hopkins came from a Tennessee team with poor quarterback play, then switched over to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs late season. But during the course of that switch, I need you to understand what happened. DeAndre Hopkins ended up with 56 receptions for 610 yards. And he didn't even play a full season with a decent quarterback. He averaged 10.9 yards per reception. And if you watch his highlight film from with Patrick Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes was slinging that ball to him in highly contested situations. And because of DeAndre Hopkins, we'll never forget how his route running literally has broken people's limbs. Breaking ankles is not just a figure of speech when you're talking about D-Hop. Okay? We're not talking about an Odell Beckham-esque player that's had 50 million repair surgeries on his joints and is just not what he used to be. We're talking about a DeAndre Hopkins that, yes, is older, but DeAndre Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins. Watch his highlights from the Kansas City Chiefs last year. I did. That guy, still that guy. Zay Flowers. Speaking of route running and separation, whew, this dude jitters and shakes sometimes too much. That's his problem. He shakes himself loose sometimes. Instead of just taking off and running, he's still shaking. Good for 74 receptions, 1,059 yards last year, 14.3 yards per reception. A lot of those yards were after the catch. And then Rashod Bateman, last year, on 45 receptions, over 750 yards receiving, he averaged 16.8 yards per reception. Do you understand that he did that in a year where oftentimes, Zay was out for a while because of injury? There was no D-Hop. We had Nelson Aguilar, but Nelly wasn't the threat. He doesn't command the attention that a D-Hop on the field is going to. Do you understand in a 3-wide set how difficult, how spread the defense is going to be when they got to look at these three guys and worry about the running game and worry about the... Come on, man. Lamar Jackson? Look for big plays to be coming from Rashod Bateman as a deep threat. His ascension as one of the best deep threats in the NFL, and then hearing the comments from camp that we just read, watch out. Watch out. This is huge news. I was hoping we'd get to see Rashod. Of course, the practices, since we weren't seeing the preseason games with, maybe the Washington practice that was coming up. But, of course, that practice has been canceled. That practice, is because we don't see the starters in preseason action much anymore as Ravens fans, or at all. These practices, these practices against other NFL teams is where we did get to see sometimes some action, but that has been canceled. So we've seen the last practice of the Ravens against another NFL team. So the next time we see Rashod Bateman will be game one. Game one against the Buffalo Bills. And that's going to be an episode where we get to talk about and build up that game. But moving on from this was awesome. But this wasn't the only good news coming out of camp. There was tons of good news coming out of camp. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Mike Green has been one of the most pleasant surprises. And I say surprise not because we're surprised Mike Green is good. I've been surprised that the pre-hype about Mike Green has been less impressive than the real in front of your eyes Mike Green. I don't know if you guys saw this shot, but this is from the preseason game against the Colts. We keep talking about the bend that he has, and some of you don't know what we mean when we say bend. So I thought I'd put this up so you can see. This is bend. This is bend. Okay? Look at how Mike Green is bending to get beneath this lineman to go chase after the quarterback. Look at this close-up of his foot planted on the ground. He's pushing off of it, and the bend. How? I mean, let's be honest. That's some special kind of athleticism right there. Mike Green has just been getting praise from everywhere, and it just keeps coming. We talked about him in length on the last episode, but I was looking at this quote from camp this week I want to share with you guys. This is Brian Baldinger from NFL Network. Listen to what he had to say. He said, speaking of Mike Green, through every kind of pass rush move you could throw. Spin, speed to power, dip and rip. I just think he's got a very bright future. This is all we keep hearing about Mike Green, and not just what we're hearing, it's what we saw in images like this and in the gameplay that we got somebody special here, and I'm super excited. And it wasn't just Mike Green that was flashing. We know our kicker who missed his first kick, Tyler Loop, shook it off and came back and made over a 50-yarder right down the middle in camp. More of that. In fact, he made one from almost 70 yards, 67 yards, I think is what they said, in camp. I know that's not gameplay, but a guy with that kind of leg, this is what you get excited about. You got a young kicker with that kind of leg, he'll get the cool calmness. And let's go on with LaJohntay Wester. We saw the dynamic return he had. There's been no slacking off. They continue to talk about his return specialty. So, exciting stuff. But somebody that we talked about briefly in the last episode, David Ajabo. David Ajabo. We were excited to get him in the second round a couple of years ago and just kept waiting to see him heal up from that injury he had during the combine. And kind of take on that dominance that everybody thought he would be as a top 15 draft pick, which he was projected originally to be. And it never really has come together because Ajabo has been, well, he's had health problems that have been kind of recurring with him. But listen to this. Look at this. I'm going to put it on the screen here. These are comments from camp. Jeff Zrebic said, Ajabo broke up a pass in Wednesday's practice and has given starting right tackle Roger Rosengarten some issues in each of the first 2 days. He looks great out here the first 2 days. I expect him to play great. Look at this. Coach John Harbaugh said, when you look at OLB's Adisa Isaac and David Ajabo, grown in all phases. Now they've been healthy and it's done wonders for them. They've been striking people out here in practice. All this positive feedback. Could Ajabo really be about to arrive as the player we've been hoping he could be? If he does, and if a certain rumor I heard that Jadeveon Clowney might be considering coming back to the Ravens and the Ravens may be considering adding him as well, pass rush could be something special this year. Wow. But not all the good news has been about special teams and defense. On the offense, of course, Keaton Mitchell, we got to see how he's reemerged as the dominant playmaker, the speedy back with the great hands and shiftiness that we saw before his injury a couple of years ago. We weren't really surprised when we heard that he has really raised expectation to where all his coaches are expecting this year to be far better than last year. We weren't surprised. Last year, he came back late in the season and was timid off the injury. But what I did not expect to hear, and maybe you didn't either, is what running backs coach Willie Taggart had to say after camp when a reporter asked him about Derrick Henry. Listen to this.
Well, I think as you saw towards the latter part of the season, you start to see his game get better. I think that's because he's got comfortable with our offense and understanding the things that we wanted him to do. And so going into year two, I think everything we asked him to do, I think you'll see it on a higher level than what it was before because he's more comfortable with what we asked him to do now, And Derrick practiced like a pro. He practiced like he's a rookie, So and he wants to be better. He don't want to be the same. So we expect for him to be a lot better. I expect for him to be a lot better once because he knows the offense so much better.
Are you serious? Did Coach Taggart just say he expects for Derrick Henry to be, quote, a lot better than he was last season? Let's not forget, Derrick Henry last season had his best statistical season as a runner of the football ever. If that Hall of Famer becomes a lot better this year, what in the world does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. We're winning a Super Bowl this year, Ravens. One Flock, get ready. The Super Bowl is looking like a better and better place for you to be booking a ticket for, because I expect to be there. I expect the Ravens to be there. And man, it should be a party. But let's not get straight to the destination. We haven't even got to week 1 yet. We got to stay healthy for the rest of the season. We got to execute. I'm just really excited, and I hope you are too. It's been an amazing episode. How about it, man? I mean, you guys, what do you think? Are you excited like I am about what we're hearing out of this camp? About the defense? About the running back room? I mean, I know you guys saw the preseason game. We came out slow, but the kicker looked good, didn't he? And the defense, even when the offense was stuttering before Cooper Rush got in his flow, the defense held them to like -5 yards or something crazy, or 5 yards in the first quarter. It was nuts. But we're going to break all that down later. But are you guys excited like I am? What's more shocking to you? The development and bounce back of Keaton Mitchell, the emergence of Mike Green, or the idiots saying that Lamar Jackson isn't a tier 1 quarterback, those 4 NFL execs? What's more shocking to you? Drop it in the comments. Love to hear it. If you're new here to the channel, thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We were closing in on 900 subscribers last time I looked. Remember, 1,000 is our first big goal. If we get to that, that means so much for the channel and helping us reach our goals to be able to bring you the best content we can. Remember, if there's one thing this world will never be too full of, that thing is love. If you know somebody that needs a little bit more love in their life, please make it a point to give it to them. I'm Rob Love, your host. Remember, we don't fly alone. We fly together. I'm going to see you back real soon, because we got to break down this Dallas Cowboys preseason game and what we saw and what it means. We are on a journey. Let's get it. Time to fly. See you next time. Thanks again for flying, brother. We'll see you.
We take the field as one flock. On the Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one flock. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go, Ravens. Let's go,